you don't need to post to just post.
Right.
Like people think, okay, I need to have all these emails in place. I need to have all these posts. But what if nobody's reading those?
Exactly.
What if no one's connecting with it? So now you just wasted all that time that you could have been doing something actually helpful for your business.
Welcome to the Catalyst Podcast. Today we have Kassidy from Kassidy Lynne Social, and we'll be talking about all things social media, all things core values, Kolbe, and the Incubator Mastermind. Welcome back to Catalyst Podcast. I'm here today with the owner and founder of Kassidy Lynne Social, Kassidy Lynne.
I'm so excited to be here.
I know, this has been like a long time coming.
I know.
And I got to be on your podcast, so I'm super excited to get to talk about all things.
Yes.
In particular, I'd like to talk about how you got into business, why you do your business, what your business is all about, and I don't know, just kind of see where the conversation goes.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I am the founder of Kassidy Lynne Social, which is a full-service social media management company. Yeah. We also do user-generated content as well as email marketing now. And so we're really focused on brand awareness and building brands visually and organically, specifically through social media. So we're not using paid ads. We're not using any outside sources except for your branding and what you're creating every day in your business. And so I got started out, I honestly just fell into social media. I didn't go to school for it. I didn't love it in the beginning. And I was running a blog at the time, and I got a position offered to me by a PR agency to run their social media for their clients.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know how to run social media. And they're like, well, you run a blog, you're like an influencer, you should try it.
Right.
So I tried it and I was like, okay, like I didn't know what I was doing, but they trusted me enough to figure it out, which was a really cool and safe opportunity for me to just learn and not feel like, oh my gosh, I'm failing at this. And then phased out of that agency, and my parents actually own a supplement company. And so they were like, why don't you take over our Instagram? You can practice and then try to get other clients.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. In about 3 or 4 months, I had 4 clients, and I just was like, I guess now I have a business. Like, who would have thought? And over time, it started to feel like a business, but at first it just felt like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, at some point, maybe I should pay myself.
Right.
Maybe I should get a business account. And then probably about a year or so into business, I met our mutual friend, Lisa.
Yeah.
And I was really looking for someone to help me with the financial space.
Yeah.
I just knew in my gut that, like, I didn't know how to run a business. I was very terrified of taxes and the IRS. So that was mostly the lead. And I was like, I need to find someone who can help me really build the foundation of a business, because I didn't go to school for it. And I feel like even when you go to school for it, they're not teaching you all these different aspects. And for me, I know you've had Gail on this, I'm in my Kolbe, I am someone who loves the facts, the fact finder. And so for me, in order to even like reach my potential, I really need to feel stable.
Right.
And I just did not have the education. I'm not someone who likes to do all the things on my own. Like, I really want to go to the expert. And so I connected with Lisa, and we started working together. And then she was like, hey, I have this incredible coach, Sonia, and we're working together to build this container that essentially addresses everything I was looking for. Like all the foundations, all of the things that were going to teach me how to not only run a business, but run it successfully. Yeah. And so that's when I joined Incubator with you.
Yeah, the Incubator program, we'll touch on that a little bit more. But you touched on a few things in just your social media marketing business, like brand awareness and all of that. Like, how important and how lost is that now with people and their businesses, that they don't really understand like what they're trying to do with marketing and the difference between what they're trying to do with marketing and telling their stories, or how much those should be connected? Like, what are you seeing when you're talking to customers out there?
Yeah, so it's definitely, there is a gap, right? Because you have people who are kind of like me. They started business and they're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like, do I just post on social media? And then you have people who've been in business for a long time, and maybe they're using old strategies or old things that not necessarily are working in an age that's very digital, video, all these different things. And so really what I see is that disconnect. And the biggest thing when I'm talking to especially new clients is who are you and why do you do what you do? And while that question doesn't necessarily answer, your colors or who you are as a brand visually, it gives me a good idea as to who you want to be online.
Right.
And that's the important question, especially I believe in organic social media, right? Because organic social media is your foundation, so that when you get to the point of paid ads or other levels of marketing, people already know who you are. They like you, they know you, they trust you.
Right. That's
And
so
so, yeah, it's huge. And you can't do that without building who you are as a brand. And that's everything from values. Yes, it is colors, your website, all those things, but more than that, it's your values as a company.
Right.
And so I was just having a conversation yesterday. For me, as a social media company, a big value is consistency. And I believe that in order to show up on social media and build something worth following, you have to be consistent on social media. And so as a social media company, we pride ourselves on consistency. You're going to get your content calendar when I say you're going to get it. The communication is consistent. You're not just being sent files and never hearing from me for 4 weeks. That is a huge brand value for my company, but it's also important for the type of business that I'm in. And so while it's not necessarily something you would hear from every marketing company about values, I really tell people with branding especially, you need to figure out those values first.
Right.
Because the disconnect happens when you have a social media over here that's saying one thing and then someone comes in and has a Zoom call with you and it's not the same person.
Yeah, for sure.
Or the team member doesn't line up with what you saw online.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to bridge that gap, and how we do that is to make sure values are intact on both sides.
And I think with something you touched on too is I think so many people just get lost in the overwhelm of marketing. Like, how often should I post? What should I be posting? And it's a lot of like tactical versus strategic. And that so much I'm talking to business owners and they're just, I need to do this, I need to do that. And they don't understand like really what's the purpose of what you're trying to say. What's the why behind it? Like, what is the message you're trying to convey to your customers? And the consistency piece of it is hopefully comes out through that piece of it.
And you said something important there. You don't need to post to just post.
Right.
Like, people think, okay, I need to have all these emails in place. I need to have all these posts. But what if nobody's reading those?
Exactly.
What if no one's connecting with it? So now you just wasted all that time that you could have been doing something actually helpful for your business. So oftentimes, people are surprised because the package I sell the most is probably 3 or 4 posts a week. And that some of those people are going from posting every single day to now I'm cutting them back. But the reason that I do that is because what are you posting? Why are you posting?
Exactly.
Are you actually posting things that are about your business? Or is it just personal random things because you're like, hey, I need to get a post done today?
Well, it's funny. I think I walk my dog a lot in the neighborhood. And I'm always thinking of this analogy with there's a couple of houses that during pandemic had sat like empty, and I think of those little drip systems.
Yep.
And I always think of like drip email campaigns. Like what are you dripping towards?
Yeah.
Like these little drip systems and these 2 houses where they're like they've gotten to the point where they're dripping to nothing.
Yep.
Like the plants have died and gone away.
There's nothing.
And there's nothing on the receiving end.
Yep.
Like it's like you've created this email marketing campaign or this social media campaign that's like dripping through something, and it's feeding nothing because there's no purpose in what it is that it's doing. And I love that you really have created, like you've tied in, and we could talk about this when we talk about Mastermind and Incubator and how you came to your core values, but you've tied in what you stand for as a business and hopefully helping other businesses see that and that it's like bleeding through to that. And one of the things that I know that you developed through Incubator, working through with Lisa, was your intake, your sort of like even just first call.
Yep.
Let me just help you understand who you are, which will help me understand if you're even a fit for my company. And a lot of companies don't do that. They don't.
No.
They're trying so hard to get the business and then taking all the clients. But for you, it's equally important. Are you the type of client that's important for me?
And that took a long time to learn.
Yes.
Still to this day, I have to have check-ins and be like, oh man, I just want this client. I'll just lower my price, or I'll just do this. Especially in the holiday season, which we just got out of. Like everybody's, I can't spend, and it's very
cyclical.
Easy to just let me lower my prices, or let me just work with you because I want to work with you.
Yeah.
But it is so important, especially if I'm going to have the value conversation, that I'm living into my values as a business owner and also just as a person, because I always tell my team, I'm like, we're no longer selling our services, right? There are, especially what I do, every single person could run social.
Right.
Every single person could schedule. It is not difficult, and you can hire someone from another country to do it for much
100%.
cheaper. You're paying for me.
Right.
You're paying for my brain, my ideas. You're paying for the work that I'm going to give you,
Yeah.
the experience I'm going to give you, and the values behind it.
Yeah.
And that's what we're selling, because anyone can do anything. That's a great part of being human. And so 100%, I've had to reevaluate how I go about vetting my clients.
Yeah.
And I try to, most of the time, lead with value and have those calls and say, hey, here's what I see that you could do differently. And I did that call first, actually, with you as a test.
It was so powerful.
And it was like, hey, here's what I notice. I, at the end of the call, give them, I would call it almost a mini strategy. It's not necessarily a strategy, but it's tangible things that they could take back to themselves, to their team, and implement right away. And everything from how their bios lined up, what they're hashtagging, all of those things. And what I found was that after that, it made my services more valuable to
100%.
the client, because they were like, wow,
Yeah.
if I take all this stuff, if I implement it, my page looks better. How would it look if so-and-so was running my account?
Consistently looking at it all.
Yes.
And what I found sitting on the customer side of it was like, holy cow, look at all this time she took for this 90-minute, I think it was a 90-minute session. You had looked at all of my social, my LinkedIn profile. You found spelling errors. You found grammar errors. You found like just little hiccups and I had some of those pages. My IT recruiting company was already 8 years in business at the time. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
That's been up
And
there
they're
for
small things, right?
Yeah.
But it's those are errors that are easily made when you're the business owner running the
100%.
social, running the business, running everything.
Working
and
in your
it's
business.
like easily, oh, well, I just needed to get that posted.
Yeah.
And then, of course, as we would sign on to work with each other, we're asking bigger questions of like, hey, great, you made a post about women empowerment. That's coming up in March. Why?
Yeah.
Like, how does that impact you? Oh, well, I'm women founded. I've had a majority women team. Okay, great. Let's talk about that. Let's not just post happy women's empowerment. Like, let's talk about why that month is important to you and your company and how it affects you.
And how it transcends.
And trying to get deeper in that, because everyone can post about women's empowerment. Everyone can post Merry Christmas. Whatever it is, the why behind it is what sells your values and who you are as a company.
And how has that paid off for you? Have there been customers where you're like, this is not a fit for me?
There's definitely been customers like that. I would say I definitely tried to tap into more of the influencers a couple of years ago, and that was a hard no for me. It's just more of a personal business. It's hard to work when you're so close. You are the face of the brand. And I actually just was having conversations this weekend of like, I can enjoy my job so much more when I'm not really with a small business owner, which was hard for me, because when I first started my business, that's what I focused on, was like helping the small business owner run their social media. But I'd really found that all the clients that I love and adore were not small businesses. They were established. They know who they are. They know why they give what they give. Even down to my nonprofit clients, which I have a couple nonprofits, one specifically that you're involved with. They know who they are. They know why they do what they do.
They know why they get up every day.
Yes. And that allows me to do my job better. But that's a hard pill to swallow when I've loved serving the small business owner. But there's a lot of growing pains that happen in between that leap. And oftentimes the small business owner hasn't discovered those values. And I've been there, so I understand. They don't know they know their why, but it's a very vague.
It's gotten lost in it.
And I, as in marketing and as someone who's working alongside you, the more detail, the better.
No, for sure. And with everything going on with like social media over the years, like, so it happens so fast. It changes so fast. And, you know, my intent is not to get political or any of that, but do you find that people are fearful? Like, what's the temperature around all the changes, and whether it's TikTok is here, TikTok is not here, or just you have to be a little bit mindful of what the cancel culture, like all these things. Do you think those that are more sure of their values and who they are, they don't worry as much, or there still is some trepidation and worry, or is there still this sort of like, oh my gosh, we have to be very careful of what we do on social?
Well, as a social media professional, you don't own social media. So while I think it is very important, and I find most businesses should be on it, if you have a business that you're willing to talk and educate people, you don't own your Instagram. You don't own your TikTok, as we learned this past weekend.
Yes.
And so if you are solely reliant on that,
Yes.
that can be scary.
Right.
It can be a part of your marketing, but it shouldn't be your whole. And I tell people all the time, I am not in charge of your sales. I am one touch point. So maybe they connect with you first on social media. A great example of this was Lisa. I connected with her on social media.
Yeah.
When I DM'd her, we're immediately off of social media, right? Let me book a call. Let's get a coffee.
Right.
Now it's relationship building.
100%.
That's really how personally I believe you're gonna sell the client.
Yeah.
But if I had then met with Lisa and whatever I saw on social media was different, now it matched her social media, how she talked, the things she was talking about aligned.
Yeah.
And so that made me want to work with her more. So it's a tool. Think about a toolbox. It is not the box.
Right.
It is not the thing. And if you're relying on it all the time, you're going to be scared if it were to go away because we don't own it. However, if you're viewing it as a tool, just like if you're viewing going to network marketing events as a tool, right? Like I can make connections, but it's my job to then go and fuel those connections. It can be great.
Yeah.
It is changing. It's changing all the time.
100%.
And as we know from this past weekend with the TikTok ban, like the government is way more involved. And so you have to be prepared for those things as a business owner.
Yeah.
You have to be educated and you have to understand specifically that that's not where your business can live.
100%.
And that's where I think with influencers, when I tried to work with them, a lot of them solely rely on that. Now they're getting smart. They're starting businesses. They're doing things. But I also, and I mean, this is my business, so it's scary, but like, I don't think social media is going to be around all the time forever. Mm-hmm. I think just as, 20 years ago, it came in, things can come back out. And that's, I mean, you do that with fashion. Everything changes and everything is. And I think especially the new generations, like I have nephews that are 2 and 3 months. I'm like, I don't even think they're going to care about it. Yeah. Like, I think my sister is going to be raising a completely different generation than like you have teenagers, right? So it's their life. Yes. I don't think these younger kids are the selling is going to be so different. No. So it is important. Don't live your life on there all the time, but definitely have a strategy, because then I have people who only have a website. Right. And they're like, I get no hits on my website. Right. No one's looking at a website.
No, it's interesting because I think of, I have a 19 who, he's Xbox, he's at college. That's how he engages with individuals. Yep. And I have a daughter who's, she has an Instagram account, but she doesn't post anything, but she'll, like, every once in a while someone will say, oh my gosh, your daughter's stories are so cute. And I'm like, I don't see any of that, right? And her Instagram page is nothing, but I'll message her little mother-daughter memes. And then I have a 14-year-old who is on Discord.
Oh,
like, they're totally different, right? Yeah. And it's through the gaming world or whatever. Yep. And my daughter communicates mostly through text or Instagram about her athletics or school, right? Like, it's just how they use it is so totally different. But you touched on something that I think Lisa and I are always talking to people that we're coaching about, is the difference between marketing and sales. So when you went from the DM and seeing Lisa on social, you went into her sales funnel. Yes. She captured you through her marketing efforts. And that's something that I don't think people make a strong enough distinction through. It's like the marketing piece of it. Then you definitely got into her sales funnel, which was then up to her to build that relationship that mirrored her marketing persona. And she is definitely one of the most authentic people, right? She is who she is in all areas of her life. And so that was great that she was able to meet with you, but that was her sales funnel that you went into. And I think people, especially those who are starting up a business, and maybe some who've had businesses for a very long time, still put sales and marketing together instead of separate.
It is always a conversation I have. And one thing that I specify in the beginning, every conversation I have with new clients, I'm not in charge of your sales. Yeah. I'm not in charge of sales. Now, I will gladly sit in on those meetings and I will tell you the reach that we've had, and I was just talking to Lisa yesterday, and we're like, what is a value? A value is you can buy 10,000 followers and they're all in India. Now you're marketing where you don't live. Or you can
never have coffee with them.
Or you can work with someone who's going to be able to reach people in your area. Right. And that's what a good marketing company can do for you. 100%. But you are in charge of the sales. And if you're constantly paying for marketing and it's not working, it might not be the marketer. Now, it could be, but it might not be the marketer. How are you interacting? How is your sales? And I think one of the most powerful things you can do on both marketing and sales is have a presence, is have those conversations.
Yeah.
Talk to people.
Right.
And treat them just like humans. That's the problem, is business owners are they're struggling in their sales, and then they're looking for marketing as the answer.
Yeah. 100%.
And then that doesn't add up. And so then they're disappointed.
Yeah.
And then you have, I've experienced it. I can't work with you anymore.
Yeah.
Like, we had no results.
Right.
And I tell people on our first calls, like, I'm organic social media. So it's not like a paid ad where sometimes you can see a huge spike in following or calls, whatever. We're building a foundation. It takes a long time, and you're not going to see those results. But maybe in 6 months, in a year, someone's going to be like, oh, you popped up on my feed, or someone like me. And you're not just feeding those initial random people. Who you really are feeding is someone like me.
Right.
I was referred to Lisa's Instagram.
Right.
So then I stalked her because I was building that credibility.
Right.
I'm watching her videos.
Yeah.
Who is this lady? Yeah. What does she know?
Right.
Her feed is what gave me the confidence to take the step and be like, hey, I want to learn more.
Yes.
And that's really what you're feeding. When
100%.
you go to these network marketing events, you don't have time to just talk to people right then. They're like, what's your social? What's your website? And then they go do that research.
They want the social proof.
And if it's not consistent, or if you're like, oh my gosh, this video is from 2021, like, people are picking up on that. And then they're like, let me go to this this person's been posting every day for a week. And like, and again, all strategies are different, but if they feel that you've been inconsistent, then they're taking that into your initial call, and they're like, well, is this person consistent?
Right. Yeah.
Goes back to values.
And that was one of the things I really liked about when you were, creating sort of your messaging and came out and really just said, hey, there's no I'm not guaranteeing an ROI.
Yeah.
You were literally the first marketing person I ever spoke to that came right out and said that.
It's still difficult because I know when they come, especially to first calls, they want me to pull up a sheet that says, here's Sonia's account. I have grown her 10,000 followers. She's a millionaire now. And she's like, you know what I mean? That's what they want me to say.
Right.
And the greatest thing that I've done for myself is not say that, because it's more in line with who I am and my integrity. To set the standards from the beginning of, hey, this is not what you're going to receive from me. If you're looking for that, go ahead and find it elsewhere. But I'm also going to tell you that they're not going to be able to fulfill that either.
Yeah.
And then I'm able to be value driven and actually show them what I'm able to help them with.
Yeah, 100%. So let's talk about Mastermind Incubator. What did you like about that?
My favorite topic. I loved
My favorite topic.
It was so extremely helpful for me on all accounts.
Yeah.
I had been in masterminds before, and my biggest thing was lack of value. Like, a lot of great conversations that I could have facilitated over coffee. And the best part about Incubator is that I was given tangible things that I still can utilize today. Like, I still have a folder of Incubator stuff that I can go and reference.
Nice.
It's also something that says a lot about what you do is it doesn't just end. Like, obviously I graduated, I finished, but I can still call you and be like, Sonia, like, here's where I'm at. Will you coach me? Or can I get some extra support? Or who do you know?
Yeah.
That's something that's been huge too, is just the circle widens and I'm able to find someone to help me with my website, find someone to help me with my podcast, like all these different things. But specifically the monthly things that we've gone over and learned, and I'm sure they've even changed since I've been in there, but we did marketing, sales, we did a finance month, cybersecurity, which was like mind-blowing. So all these different things that as a new business owner, where you're just like trying to stay on the raft floating around, it was very helpful to like know things and be taught them and like know how to run my books and know when would be a good time to get a bookkeeper versus is it a little bit of an expense right now? It's not something my business can afford. And all of those things, and kind of establish a plan for them, was so extremely helpful.
That's so awesome, because Lisa and I really, having had my original mastermind group, which was already established businesses, we would have people come in and they would sit at the table and be a little bit like fish out of water and not really sure how to contribute. And so, I was kicking that around with Lisa literally like in October. And speaking of the Colby, she and I both being like quick starts, we're like, well, let's do this. Yeah. And then let's start it and we just looked at the calendar, we're like, March. And the next thing you know, we created a syllabus and monthly meetings, and we had all this thing going, and then we had 5-6 people enrolled, and it was really meant for that business owner that had already sort of been kicking the can down the road, whether they had a main job and a side hustle, or a business that had some success but just needed that little clarity, whether it was in the area of finance, which we do cover over 2 or 3 months, like what's your money type, what is going on in your business financially, all of those things, what's the difference between sales and marketing, all of those topics, so that they can scale past. If they're at 70, get to 100K, if they're at 30, get to 50K, like really kind of make it like a real business, and just get past the little foundational things to help them feel more confident in where they are. And all the businesses that were in your group are really doing really well and thriving, and are a part of, for me, something you touched on, one of my core values is community, right? It's like always having that, hey, here's someone, whether I'm doing business with them or I can connect someone to someone, that's super important to me.
That's something I was going to mention too, because not only did we have access to the Incubator community, we had access to the Catalyst community, which is obviously so valuable because they are business owners who are ahead of us somehow, whether years financially. And that provided so much value too, because it was almost like I could see myself in that seat eventually. And that community, it was huge. It's like, that makes you feel supported. And something that while you were speaking, I was thinking about is one of my clients, they're a professional development company for educators. And one of their slogans is that we don't just feed the educator, we feed the human. And that's something that you do really well at Catalyst, is you don't just feed the business owner, you feed the human. And so specifically, an example that pops up is Colby. Like Colby is not, it's obviously huge for a business owner, but like you're able to learn so much about yourself as a person. And I'm able to communicate so much better to people because I can understand, one, how I'm wired and doing it, and then two, how they're wired, right? And so you just mentioned quick start. If you're doing something super fast, that makes me anxious. So like I can communicate that to you. Obviously it's easier if you speak the language. But I now know that about myself, and so I can better ask for what I need.
Colby is just so mind-blowing to me because it came to me really on a personal level with my kids and in pandemic, like how to help them study and be organized differently than me. That's how I got to meet Gail, really was through a personal development course that I was able to support her in. And then I was like, what do you do? And how does this work? Because having 3 different kids who have a need to do, because it's really different, not what I want, but what do they need to be successful? What do they need to take action? And they're all very different. Noah, my oldest, is very much like me. My daughter's very much like my husband, and then we have the third who's like a we call him a honey badger. He just kind of is very different than us, and so the need to have information provided in a certain way to take action. Big chunkers, little chunkers, like Arden, my daughter, needs more information, needs time to process, wants to be part of it, very much like my husband. So if I want to make a big decision, a lot of times I just have to email him like, hey, I'm thinking of this and this travel or this flight and leaving on this day. If I send him an email with details of something I want to do, it's much easier than an over-the-counter conversation in the kitchen, because he'll come back and be like, why this and why that? What about this and what weekend? And then I'm like shut down. Because I feel like, oh crap, my idea is bad and I was so excited and I'm ready to like take a risk and go do this, and he's just like firing back at me, and I'm like, and it's not bad. He's not doing anything wrong. It's just that he needs information in a different way. And I've learned that over time through the Colby. And if I really am passionate about what I need to do to take a trip or do something, I email him and then I give him, then I just sit back. And then he'll email back and he'll be like, yay, go do it. I'm excited for you. Or, hey, this is great, but that weekend this is going on to that. Would you mind doing a different weekend? Or I have this, or I have that. And then it's like, oh, it's easier, day-to-day stuff. It's not like I have to email my husband to do everything, but big things are more important and when he'll come to me for like an idea, he's like, sometimes I've been thinking about this for a month. And I'm like, why didn't you tell me sooner? And he's like, because you'll be like, let's do it. And it freaks me out. And I need to like process. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I feel bad, but we're the yin. We've been married 21 years, so it works, right? And it's interesting to watch him go through college and the FAFSA and applications, and I just wouldn't have patience to all that. And I do feel a little outside of it, but I get to be the cheerleader and I get to pack the dorm room. Like I get to be a part of that.
Well, and
experience.
that's just it. It's like learning both of your strengths.
Right.
And now you can lean into those.
Yeah.
And serve your kids so much better.
100%. So like watching him and my daughter go through the college selection process and like spreadsheets about which college is going to cost what and the scholarships. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait till the decision's made so I can get into like which comforter am I buying? Is like,
what's the decided aesthetic?
What does she want? Because they want to go to cold weather places. I'm like so excited to like be outfitting her for her new thing. And he's just like all into the details of like applications and FAFSA and deadlines. And I couldn't. It's not that I don't care. It's that I don't need to be a part of it.
It's not your zone of expertise, which is fine.
So the Colby is super helpful. And I think, did you hire a VA and did you leverage the Colby in using that? Or was it?
I had hired the VA before, and I had a time and place for the VA. It didn't end up working out. I think I am very much into relationships like you are. And so I had hired, my assistant was with me before I started Incubator. And I definitely leveraged her in a different way.
Nice.
And had her doing more so like tasks I didn't want to do.
Right.
And after the Colby, I was like, wait, like there's things she's actually strong in that I'm not. And so let's have her do specific things.
Right.
And now she's a social media manager for me. So she is going to start running her own accounts and having her own clients.
Awesome.
And there's just those distinctions of like what you're good at, but also what you like.
Yeah.
And I had her at first, I was like, oh, I'm just going to give her these things that I don't want to do.
Right.
And it's like those things, I mean, she probably didn't want to do them either, but it also wasn't her strong suit. And now that I know what she's strong in, and I'm honestly not strong in those things, it's like, great, let's split up the tasks and you do what you're good at and I do what I'm good at. And then the business thrives.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what's up for you in 2025?
Oh my gosh. Well, we're very excited. We just did a little mini rebrand. Nice. So originally my business, Kassidy and Social, I was basically a solopreneur. I was the face of it, which was great. But I had really bad imposter syndrome showing up on social media, coming from the social media girl. And I just would not want to record reels. I would not want to do anything. And I was just struggling with the side of being the social media expert. Like I just did not want to brand myself that way. And I, at the end of last year, went through some NLP stuff and worked through some things. And I was like, okay, like I actually want someone to be with me versus I still want to be in control. I still want to be the boss, but I want to have like that collaborator role. Yeah. And so after 2 years of working for me, I got to go see Catherine, my other social media manager. We had a really good conversation. I was like, I want you to be more of a steady role versus just like offloading stuff. And so she's now a face of the business too. And she's going to start taking clients in LA. So she's going to we've kind of branded ourselves as the Vegas girl versus the LA girl. Nice. And that's really exciting because she's going to be able to have full clients to herself instead of kind of helping me here and there with clients that are out here we take clients everywhere. And then we added services. So we added email marketing. We added user-generated content. So if you just specifically, usually those are for branded product-based companies. Right. So you have a supplement or something, you want video for ads, we can create the video, send it off to you. Nice. We do content days where you can get 10 to 20 videos fully edited into your mailbox. I love that. So just expanding offers, but also advertising those offers because there's been things that we've offered, including like strategy days, obviously full social media management, but I've always led with the management because that's just been my comfort zone. And so now leaning into different offers. And I was telling Lisa the other day, I'm like, she was like, what are your goals? I'm like, I don't know what the goals are because that's just not my personality, but I have a good feeling it's going to be big. So I'm not sure. And she's like, okay, great. When I accomplish it, I'll be the worst thing a coach ever wants to hear. But I was like, I've yet to have a feeling. And you know this as my coach too. Like if I was asked, okay, what do you want to make next year? It was like $1 more than I made last year. Like I was like, think that would be so great. And so I'm stretching myself and trying to just lean into the feeling that something's bigger is coming, but I think it's helped having someone else to bounce those ideas off of because it's like being alone in this for now almost 4 years is like, oh my gosh, like I just want someone else to be like, hey, is this a good idea? Is this a collaboration? And so it's worked really well because, you know, she's just wanting to be that collaborative role. But it's great because she's still can work whenever. She can have her own hours. It's great for her, and she's able to bring in a new type of clientele that's maybe not somebody that I would go for originally, because she has things that she's passionate about and her ideas.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a really good year. I got season 3 of my podcast coming out, In Between. So we talk all about the in-between moments, specifically for female founders.
Yeah.
We've all got in-between moments in our lives, but specifically how we get through those moments. You were on season 1 of the podcast. And how we get through the tough moments, how we manage to keep going, and what keeps us going, really, because I think we talk so much about the beginning and we talk so much about the end when we're successful, and it's like there's so many times you just don't want to keep going, but for some reason you keep going. And so I have a real big focus on female founders, from young to moms to people who've been doing this for 30 years, and there's some really fun conversations.
And the power is so much in the in-between, like everything that it took to like pick yourself up, put yourself together and go. I love that concept. I love that story. So, well, I'm excited. I think it's amazing. I think in our mastermind, we've opened up seats in all of the groups. And one of the bonuses if people do join is that they do get a social media audit from you. So I'm excited.
I'm excited about
that too. I'm encouraging
Full
people,
circle.
I know, to join so that they can take advantage of the services that you offer and get that social media audit, because that was really powerful and eye-opening for me as a business owner. So as we close up, how can people find you? Talk about where the podcast is, how they can connect with you to do business with you, maybe even do a social media audit for themselves.
Absolutely. So my website is KassidyLynneSocial.com, and then my Instagram is KassidyLynneSocial. The podcast is the InBetween Podcast.
Yeah.
We're In Between Combos on Instagram, and then we're linked everywhere on pretty much everywhere podcasts are found. But I'm sure Ruby will put in the show notes too.
All the show notes will be there, and it's Kassidy with K.
Yes. Oh, yes. Kassidy with a K. I forgot.
And any parting words or advice for people out there as they go into this year?
Obviously, join Incubator, join Catalyst.
Yes.
Seriously. I'm not saying that because I've been there, but truly it is a safe container. It is, you will find results. And in the coaching world, it is so, so difficult to find people who are going to provide you results and a safe space to show up how you need to show up. And that's like invaluable on all fronts. And I would just say, if you haven't, even if it's not Catalyst, if you haven't found a mentor or just someone to have coffee with and share what you're struggling with, to look for that in whatever way you can. Important. Because you will feel supported, you will feel not alone. I know when we went through Incubator, and there was a day that you and Lisa shared your days, and I was in shock. I was like, wait, they have bad business days. What are you talking about? Like, and they were things that even I was dealing with as at a smaller scale, but it's just so comforting to have some sort of coach or mentor who's ahead of you in some way to be able to say, I went through that yesterday. 100%. And just because I'm here doesn't mean that you're still not going to go through that. Yeah. Here's how we can figure out how to support you this.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, like, you definitely, I thought was a star student. I mean, like, you came in, like, super vulnerable and open, and your business grew, and not just revenue-wise, right? But you really redeveloped, like, your core values. That was so awesome to watch you go through that and come up with those in that one session and be like, wait a minute, like, this is cool to be able to do this exercise and, like, take a stand for what I stand for, what my business can stand for. I like, distinctly remember that session with you. And everyone has imposter syndrome, and it's something I wish we could just take that word out of the dictionary. But, the more you lean into who you are as a woman, as a leader, with the stand that you've taken for your family, the legacy of your brother, like all of the things, Kassidy, you've just really blossomed into, I'm like, I get emotional.
Thank you.
A beautiful person, woman, and business owner. And like, I've just really enjoyed watching you. And I just think you've transformed your business through that program, but beyond it. Like, I just think it's amazing what you're doing, and you're a testament to what small business can become.
Well, thank you.
And so I'm really proud of you.
So grateful for your support. I could not have done it without you and your whole team and just all your support. Yeah. And honestly, the reason we're sitting here, because I went to my good friend Ruby here, and I was like, You need to meet Sonia.
I know. She's in the
And now we both have podcasts for Ruby. So
I know.
yes, you're changing so many business owners' lives, and I'm a director as well of this. So
Yes.
I appreciate you.
Well, through that change, they changed me, so I'm grateful for it. I'm selfishly motivated.
It goes both ways.
Yes, and what givers do.
Yes,
So, well, thank you for having me on your show and inspiring me to have my own, and for being one of my first few guests.
I love it.
It's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you like what you saw today on the Catalyst podcast, make sure you subscribe to our show, like it, and share it with someone who you think might also find value.